Hello, students. Today I want to talk to you about the book How I Live Now by Meg Rosoff. First of all, this is a book that won a Prince Award, so anytime you see this big P, whether it's gold or silver, it means that the book has been critically acclaimed, so it's kind of a big deal. I picked this book up because Miss Vanderbush, one of the other teachers in the English department here at North, recommended it to me and said it was a really interesting story. And the way that she described it is that it's a war story, but it's not written from the point of view of a soldier. So it's a story of a survivor. The protagonist in it is female. Her name is Daisy, but her full name is Elizabeth. So if you aren't into female protagonists, then you probably shouldn't read this book. But it is a good one, very interesting. It has a pretty quick pace. It's only, let's see here, 194 pages, and I'll just show you some of the writing so you can get a little bit of a view there. It's not a ton of writing per page. That said, even though it's 200 pages, I feel like a lot of information was given in it, and it was quite interesting. So it takes place in England primarily. There is a subsetting of New York City, and in this book, this girl has gone to England, and all of a sudden a world war breaks out and everything is going crazy. There's chaos everywhere, and she and her cousins are left on their own. Their aunt was on her way to Oslo, and they are stuck riding out this war by themselves. So kind of an interesting read. I want to just read a small section of it. This is from later on in the book. Early on, her narration is rather young. She's about 15 at the first part of the book, and when she's 15, she talks a lot like a 15-year-old, so she kind of rambles a little bit. She doesn't use the best punctuation, so sometimes that can get a little bit annoying, especially to somebody like an English teacher. But it's very true to how 15-year-olds write, in my opinion. This second part is from when she's about 21 years old, looking back on the whole experience. So, without further ado, I ended up in a hospital where they kept me for months after I arrived back in New York, staring at a wall, stunned silent, frozen rigid and with anger and grief. My willingness to eat confused and annoyed the staff, confounding their efforts to understand what I was doing there. For months, an explanation for my presence escaped them completely, but I wasn't about to help them with that problem. Eventually, they were forced to release me, still unable to diagnose the obvious. So here it is, finally, and I hope they're paying attention. I was in the hospital because it was convenient. It was the only way to get me out of England. I was not interested in starving or killing, slashing, depriving, maiming, or punishing myself. I was dying, of course, but then we all are. Every day, in perfect increments. I was dying of loss. The only help for my condition, then as now, is that I refuse to let go of what I loved. I wrote everything down, at first in choppy fragments, a sentence here, a few words there. It was the most I could stand at the time. Later I wrote more, my grief muffled, but not eased by the passage of time. When I go back over my writing now, I can barely read it. The happiness is the worst. Some days I can't bring myself to remember. But I will not relinquish a single detail of the past. What remains of my life depends on what happened 6 years ago. In my brain, in my limbs, in my dreams, it is still happening. And that's just the end of one little chapter. Another benefit to this book, in my opinion, if you are somebody who struggles to really read long passages, is that the chapters are pretty short. I think the longest chapter I read was like 5 pages long, and I think especially when you've got a lot of homework going on, or you've got a lot of sports going on, things outside of school, this is a great read for that reason, because it's not something that you have to worry about setting down in the middle of a chapter. The chapters are short, you can get through them really quickly. So anyway, that's How I Live Now. Sorry it's backwards, by Meg Rosoff. Great pick. It will be on my shelf wherever we have that. We haven't designed our spaces too specifically yet. If you can't find it with me, you can find it in the library. Have a great day.